Hey everyone, Tony D with a hot take, and this is about that recent shooting with the kid in Georgia. So just briefly, Stephen Molyneux has a video on it where he breaks down all the central precepts of what exactly happened. Now, if you just look at the local news reports it as, two white racists hunt down a kid who was jogging and minding his own business. The end. But when you drill down into the details, you realize it's a lot more complicated than that. These guys are just being portrayed that way. Not that they're totally innocent, but and not that this kid was totally innocent either. But the media's narrative is to get more clicks, and they're definitely going to get more clicks if you're outraged by, oh my God, this poor kid was just hunted down by these racists, and we got to worry because there's racists everywhere. But that's a narrative. That's not actually what happened. As I understand it, what happened was this kid he was 10 miles from his house, which is kind of a long distance if you're going out for a jog, but let's say he was. Why would you go into an empty house belonging to a stranger? Now, there's no evidence to suggest that he knew the owner or anyone connected to this house, but the videos come out now. He goes into this house and he looks around. Now, what other reason does he have for being in that house other than, if he doesn't know anybody and it's a total stranger to him, there's really no other reason to be there other than you're looking for stuff to steal. Unless you got called over there, unless you heard like, oh, help me, which, I don't think he did. The evidence suggests that the house was empty. So he walked in there, and then the owner of the house was alerted on his phone because he had a camera set up. He ran over there, called 911, yelled at the kid, and the kid took off. Now, at that point, the two guys who ended up shooting him got their guns and took off after him. And you might say, well, that sounds pretty suspicious, except that this kid had a record. He had been either kicked out of school or arrested for bringing a gun to school. And he also, I think there was like some kind of shoplifting charge involved. So he had already been a knucklehead, and it was known to at least one of these two men. The father was an ex-cop, and he had been involved in the case, so he already recognized this kid. And I believe his son went to the same school where he pulled out the gun. But he looked too old to have been in the same class, so I'm not sure. Anyhow, they decide to go after the kid, and they're calling him and saying, you have to wait for the cops. At some point, the kid then turns around and tries to go for the son's gun. They get into a scuffle, and then the black kid gets shot, and he ends up dying. He gets shot like twice. Now, I happen to think these two knuckleheads shouldn't have decided to play cop and go after this kid. Now, legally, they can. Legally, you can make a citizen's arrest. But there's only so much you can do as a legal citizen, in terms of detaining and arresting somebody. And really, no one listens to that. And the fact that the other knucklehead turned around and lunged for the gun, well, now obviously, what else is going to happen here? You're not going to go, oh, you're lunging for the gun. Well, here, you take it. No, that's not going to happen. There's going to be a struggle, and somebody's going to end up shot, because if you have a gun and then somebody tries to take a gun away from you, you got a choice. You can give him the gun and run, or you could shoot him. I mean, that's about your only choice. Once he starts getting his hands on the gun, you start to worry, oh man, if he gets the gun on me, I'm dead. So I kind of understand why they would shoot, but I don't understand why they pursued him in the first place. I wouldn't have pursued him. I think they overstepped their bounds there, and they're in a lot of trouble for killing this kid. They're going to go, something's going to happen to them. I don't think they're going to get off scot-free, but I wouldn't expect them to be sentenced for murder. It wasn't a planned murder. At worst, they're going to get some sort of manslaughter charge for causing the death of this kid, simply because they chased after him. And when you chase after somebody, whether you have a gun or not, people get freaked out. And this kid had, as Stephen Molyneux points out in his video, he had a reason to worry. If he's already been in front of a judge twice, man, that third time, he's going to jail. So in the back of his head, he's got to think, well, I'm going to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail, which is stupid on his part because he should not have lunged back. He should have just kept running, or he should have surrendered himself and just waited for the cops and denied everything. But he was too freaked out, and who the hell knows how he got all the way up in that neighborhood 10 miles away. Maybe he did go jogging. But more evidence suggests that there were problems in the neighborhood with people having minor break-ins and small things being stolen. So it's possible he was connected to that in some way. It's possible he's the one who's doing it, and that his MO is to jog around the neighborhood and wait for a house that's open and then slip in there and take whatever he can get. Criminals operate in a realm of opportunity. If you are casing a house and you planning on robbing it, and you go there and you see a bunch of people, a bunch of cars outside, you just keep driving. I mean, duh. You wait, and you keep going back until one day the place is empty. The place is empty, nobody's around. You pull up there and you hide your car, whatever you do. You break in, you steal a bunch of stuff. You're in and out in less than 90 seconds, and you go your merry way. That's how people rob places. So remember that. If you ever leave for more than a couple of minutes in your house, make sure you lock the doors and windows, because that's what they do. A guy who is going to case out a joint or rob a joint, what he's going to do, if he's going to do the jogger thing, he's going to jog around the neighborhood, and the whole time he's looking around. He spots a house that looks like, this might be a good house to break into. And he jogs by it for a couple of days in a row. And he sees that it's empty. It's empty, no car. It's empty, no car. You check your watch. You note the time. You come by the same time every day, or maybe you come by a half hour earlier, a half hour later. You see a consistent pattern, like, wow, it's empty during the day. And then one day you're jogging, you stop to tie your shoe, and you look around, you make sure no one else is watching, and then you jog right behind the backyard. And you already have in your head your excuse for being there, right? Whatever your excuse is. Oh, I'm just here. I'm going to be mowing their lawn, and I just was checking out the lawn in case you jog back there, somebody's standing there. Or, the neighbor sees you. You just want to be prepared for your story, right? So you go into the backyard, and the first thing you do is you look around, make sure nobody can see you, and then you start checking the doors and windows. And if any of them are open, well, the game is on. You slip in there, you grab what you can, stuff your pockets or whatever you brought to carry stuff, and then you're out the door in less than 2 minutes. Then, whatever your plan is to get away with stuff, maybe you call for a ride, maybe you call for an Uber. You just jog a few blocks with a big bag of stuff or a knapsack or whatever, depending on what you're going to steal, depending on your situation. If you're a jogger, obviously, you can't run away with a TV. You can't go jogging down the street with a TV. But you're looking for small electronics that are sellable, that won't be traced, or you're looking for cash, maybe jewelry, maybe you're just doing it for fun. But the thing is, once you decide to break into a house, you're taking your life into your own hands. Not just here, but all over the world. Because imagine how you'd feel if you're sitting in your house and you're looking at it. I'm looking at a door right here. That knob starts to twist, and somebody comes into this room. I'm going to fucking kill him. I mean, because he broke into my house, man. Yeah, you feel violated. You freak the hell out. I'm going to pick up the nearest object and just start beating on whoever walks through that door if I don't recognize them. Somebody breaks into your house. That's a pretty traumatic experience. So you got to understand, if you decide to break into someone's home, you are taking your life into your own hands. And he did that the moment he broke in or walked in to that abandoned house. Well, not abandoned, but that house they were doing construction on. And you could say, well, I mean, the house was having construction built. No, it was built. The house was built. They were doing some remodeling. That's like a finished house. That's a place where somebody lives. You can still be in a house and they're doing remodeling. You can still be living there. You can still be watching TV. Yeah, maybe you can't use your kitchen or whatever. So he took his own life into his hands the moment he decided to walk on somebody else's property and go into their home. And that's unfortunate, and that's tragic. And somebody, his parents failed him, maybe, or maybe you could say the system failed him. Someone failed him along the way and said, look, man, you can't break into a house. They'll kill you. They'll kill anybody breaks into a house. It's true. I'd like to ask the people who are defending this kid, what you would do if someone broke into your house and they were aggressive and they pushed you around. I don't think you'd be happy about it. And I think if you had a chance to pick up a knife and stab them before they tied you up, I mean, you might do that. You might kill the damn guy because you don't know what they're going to do. There's plenty of instances where, professional home invaders, they'll say, oh, don't worry, we're just going to tie you up and you're going to be fine. And they tie people up and they rob the place. And they spend hours there and then they kill the people anyway. These are criminals. Lying is not off the table here. They don't have to keep any promises they make. And if you see their face, they're in trouble. They're in big trouble. An armed robbery in a home, it's a lot of time. That's a big criminal record that is hard to expunge. And some people, they just, under that pressure, oh no, I'm going to kill this person. But, at that moment, they think, well, that's a better idea because there'll be no witnesses. But what they don't understand is they're actually making it much, much worse for themselves. The amount of police resources that are going to be put on a murder are much higher than are going to be put on a break-in. A break-in, if no one's home, I mean, people have had their houses robbed. You know what happens. They come out, they fill a report, and that's the end of it. That's the end of it, really, most times. Now, if somebody's home and gets, held at knife point or gun point or whatever, well, that's a much higher thing. That's armed robbery, and you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. But still, nothing compared to a murder. Oh, my God. A murder? That is open forever. You are on the run for the rest of your life. And if they ever catch you, even if it's 25 years later, you're done. You're going to jail. The system failed this kid. And unfortunately, these two knuckleheads that chased him, they exceeded their authority. Yes, you can make a citizen's arrest. But really, who listens to that crap? Some rando says, hey, I citizen arrest you. You going to listen to him? Most people are not going to do it, especially a kid who's willing to walk into a stranger's house on the off chance he might steal a tool set or something, or whatever the hell he was doing. So, it's a tragic case, but the way the media is portraying it is totally false, in my view. They're portraying it as this big racial incident. Don't get sucked into it. Don't go down that path, because, as always, these days, news stories are way more complicated. It doesn't mean there's no racism in the world. It doesn't mean this stuff hasn't happened in the past. It doesn't mean stuff won't happen in the future. But in this particular instance, before you go on Twitter and say, oh, this is so tragic, understand that we live at a time when our journalism is about as reliable as those clickbait ads you see on Facebook. They're about clicks. They're not about the truth.